The Vrixol ship, Valiant Claw, hovered silently above the now activated planet. Below, the Terran Vanguard had completed its initial operations. Lights from the horizon and scattered human outposts glimmered against the dark surface, like stars reborn on the planet itself. Captain Zikor stood on the bridge, his claws folded together, eyes fixed on the scene. His officers remained silent, each absorbed in the awe of what they were witnessing. No report could fully capture it. No sensor, no description, no memory. Humans were not powerful in the ways the galaxy measured strength, yet they radiated something far more profound: presence, courage, and calm certainty. Rilsa broke the silence. Captain, it's like the planet itself responds to them. Energy, light, even the air seems alive. Zikor nodded slowly. Yes, it is not technology alone. It is their spirit. And we are seeing it for the first time in living form. Threx, still at his console, spoke quietly. They are small, but somehow larger than anything we have faced before. The captain did not reply. There were no words sufficient for this truth. The humans continued their work below. They moved not in haste, but with purpose and precision. Every action mattered. Every gesture carried weight. The horizon systems hummed to life under their touch, and the once dead planet began to display faint signs of habitability. Power grids, lighted corridors, and structures that seemed designed to last not for centuries, but for memory itself. From orbit, the Vrixol crew could see the humans pausing from time to time, sharing looks, smiling softly, or speaking quietly to one another. There was no arrogance, no dominance, no threat, just determination and hope. Rilsa whispered, "They are so human, and yet I have never felt anything like this before. Their calm is frightening." Zikor's mandibles clicked softly. Yes, they do not seek fear, yet they demand respect. Athena, the Horizon's AI, projected again. Captain Zikor, the humans you see are survivors. They endured what no other species could. They faced extinction, despair, and betrayal, yet they persisted. The galaxy called them weak. They proved it wrong. And now, you see the return of their legacy. Zikor stepped forward. Athena, will all species understand them? Or is this something beyond explanation? It is beyond strength alone. Only those who observe closely, only those who recognize courage can understand. Fear is not absence here. Fear is a teacher. Humans do not eliminate fear, they walk through it, Threx murmured. Captain, that is why every empire feared Earth. Not because of armies, but because of courage itself. Zikor nodded. And now, the galaxy faces the reminder of that courage. For hours, the Vrixol watched. Ships moved, energy flowed, and the humans coordinated flawlessly. There was no haste but no pause. Every step, every movement radiated purpose. And as the day passed, the Vrixol realized something they had never admitted. They were no longer the apex in this moment. Zikor felt a strange mix of fear and respect. It was the first time he understood what it meant to face true courage. Not the courage to fight or kill, but the courage to stand when the stars themselves collapse around you. Rilsa turned toward him. Captain, is this what terror feels like? He nodded slowly. Yes, and yet it is not cruel. Terror is not pain. Terror is awareness that something exists beyond your understanding, and humans are that awareness. Then, as if in answer, one of the human ships transmitted directly. Commander Arya Holt's calm voice filled the Vrixol comm. Captain Zikor, you have watched. You have seen our work and our memory. Know this. We do not arrive to dominate. We arrive to remember, to protect, and to inspire. The galaxy is vast and fear is natural, but we are not here to feed it. We are here to guide courage. Her words, simple and clear, carried weight heavier than a dozen fleets. The Vrixol felt it deep in their limbs, a recognition that strength alone could not grant. Threx muttered, Captain, she speaks with authority without commanding. How is that possible? Zikor's eyes did not leave the screen. Because authority is not taken, it is earned, and courage cannot be faked. Across the bridge, silence reigned. Every officer realized the same truth. Humans were not the strongest by force, but they were unmatched in the essence of living. The Vrixol Dominion had faced storms, battles, and countless enemies. They had never retreated before. Yet now, watching the humans restore the horizon and awaken the planet below, they felt small. Not weak, but humbled, Rilsa whispered. Captain, we thought we were fearless. but in their presence. I feel the weight of my own limits, Zakor nodded. This is not weakness. This is learning. The galaxy is vast. Many are strong, many are clever, but humans, they are remembered because they are relentless, even when all seems lost. As evening fell over the planet, Athena projected a new hologram above the horizon. It was a vision of the galaxy, stars and systems stretching across the void, and in each corner, the echoes of human actions and memory appeared. Small colonies that survived, colonies that rebuilt, colonies that learned to thrive in impossible conditions. Athena's voice resonated across the bridge. Observe, Captain Zakor. This is what humans leave behind. Not weapons, not armies, not empires, but inspiration. Courage spreads even in silence. You have seen it. You have felt it. And now the galaxy will know. Zakor's mandibles clicked slowly. It is overwhelming. Not a fleet, not a war, but the knowledge that fear can be met and overcome, Rilsa added softly. That is terrifying. In a way that is beautiful. The night deepened and the humans worked quietly under starlight. Zakor realized that what they were doing was more than survival. They were teaching. Every action, every restored system, every new light on the planet was a lesson. Courage is stronger than fear. Hope lasts longer than despair. The galaxy must remember those who stand when all falls. He turned to his crew. Record everything. Every detail. The Vrixol must know what we have witnessed. Not to fear humans, but to respect them, and to learn. As the hours passed, the human crew completed the first stage of restoration. Commander Holt transmitted one last time to the Vrixol ship. Captain Zakor, you have seen the return of humans. Carry this knowledge. Teach your people that true strength is not in dominance, but in courage. Fear may exist, but it is not the end. One day all will know what it means to face terror and still rise. That is the gift of humanity. The message ended. Silence returned, but it was a different silence now. Not empty, not nervous, but filled with understanding. Zakor stepped back from the command console, feeling the enormity of what he had witnessed. Crew, today we have faced something we never expected. Not a predator, not a storm, but courage. True living courage, the kind that can change the galaxy itself. Rilsa's voice trembled softly. Captain, will they leave again? Zakor shook his head slowly. Perhaps. Or perhaps they will stay until the galaxy remembers them. Either way, they have shown us something eternal. Fear can teach, but courage transforms. Threx spoke quietly, almost in awe. I never thought I could feel. So small and inspired at the same time. The captain looked at him. That is the lesson, Threx. You are small compared to courage itself. But now you carry it forward. Far below, on the glowing planet, the humans finished their work for the day. Lights blinked on corridors, structures stood renewed, and the horizon's systems hummed with life. They paused for a moment, standing together and looking at the stars above, calm and silent. The galaxy watched and remembered, and somewhere in the distance, every species that had once underestimated humans began to feel a quiet truth. To face a human is to face courage itself. To underestimate them is to face your own limits. Captain Zakor recorded the final words in his log. We have faced storms, beasts, and empires, but never this. The humans do not command fear. They do not wield it. They walk through it, transform it, and leave it behind as a lesson for all who witness them. Today the Vrixol have seen the impossible made real. Humanity returns, not as conquerors, but as the measure of true courage. And the galaxy will never be. The planet Varkon 9 lay silent under a red sky. The once green plains had turned into dark ashes after years of endless war. Craters covered the land. Metal remains of ships were scattered like broken bones, and a faint wind carried the smell of burned earth. The war was finally over, or so the soldiers were told. Among the quiet ruins walked Serac of the Dravak Empire, a tall alien warrior with gray-scaled skin, a mechanical left arm, and deep scars across his chest. His armor was old, dented, and marked with symbols of victories that now felt empty. He had survived many battles across many worlds, but this war, the human war as he called it, had changed him more than any other. Serac stopped near the remains of a broken human transport. Its white hull was half buried in the dirt. The insignia of the United Earth Defense Force was still visible on the side, a faded blue circle with stars around it. He crouched down, brushing dust from the emblem with his clawed fingers. The gesture was slow, almost gentle. Once he had laughed at this symbol. To him, humans were newcomers to the galaxy, fragile creatures from a small planet who dared to fight among the stars. But now, after years of war, that laughter felt hollow. He looked up at the horizon where the twin suns of Varkan 9 were setting. The light touched the burnt ground, making the world look like a grave of fire and metal. Serac sighed, a deep, heavy sound that carried both exhaustion and regret. His soldiers had gone back home. His commanders were celebrating victory. But Serac stayed behind. He couldn't leave yet. He wasn't waiting for orders. He was waiting for silence to speak. In the distance, a group of small ships descended through the smoke-filled sky. They belonged to the Galactic Peace Council, sent to collect reports from survivors. Among them were journalists, scholars, and politicians, people who wanted stories of heroism and triumph. But Serac's story was different. His story was not about glory. It was about truth. When the ships landed, a group of young officers approached him. One of them, a female reporter with pale blue skin and glowing eyes, looked at Serac curiously. "You are Serac of the Dravak, correct?" she asked politely. "The war hero of the Eastern Front." Serac didn't answer right away. His eyes, dark and tired, were still watching the burned horizon. Finally, he turned to her. "I am Serac," he said quietly. "But I am no hero." The officer blinked, confused. "You fought for 3 years without retreat. You led the assault on Asterion Station. I survived," Serac interrupted. "That is all." There was something in his tone, a weight, a sadness that silenced her questions. She glanced at her recording device. "The Council wishes to document personal accounts of the war," she explained. "They want stories from every side. Would you be willing to share yours?" Serac looked at the broken human symbol again. "You want to know what happened here?" he asked softly. "Then you must understand what humans truly are. Not what your leaders say, not what the Empire believes. The truth." The reporter nodded slowly. "We wish to understand." Serac sat down on a large stone, his mechanical arm whirring faintly as he moved. The light from the setting suns glinted off the metal surface. He was silent for a long time before he began to speak. "When the humans first entered the Galactic War," he said, "we did not fear them. We pitied them." His voice was low, steady, almost like he was talking to himself. "They came from a small blue world at the edge of the stars. They had no great fleets, no powerful weapons, no advanced armor. We thought they would die quickly." He paused and looked at his metal hand. The claws reflected the orange light, but they didn't. The reporter listened quietly as Serac continued. "I remember the first time I saw them," he said. "It was on the planet Lareth 5. We, the Dravak, had been fighting the Vorn Collective, machines without hearts or fear. When the humans arrived to help, my commander laughed. 'They bring flesh against steel,' he said. 'Let them try.'" Serac's eyes narrowed as he remembered that day. The humans landed in small groups carrying projectile rifles instead of plasma cannons. They wore armor made of light metal, and they shouted to each other in a language filled with strange sounds. We thought they were fools, but when the Vorn attacked, they did not run. They stood side by side, covering each other, shouting words of courage even as their lines fell. He shook his head slowly. "They fought like fire, small sparks but burning bright." The reporter leaned forward, fascinated. "And your people?" "We watched," Serac said. "At first we watched. But when our flank broke and the Vorn began to surround us, it was the humans who came to help. They didn't even know us, yet they came. One of them, a young soldier named Elias Ward, dragged me from the battlefield when my armor was destroyed. He was half my size, bleeding, but he smiled and said, 'You're not dying today, big guy.'" Serac paused again. For the first time, a faint smile touched his face. "That was the first time I realized humans were not fighting for territory or pride. They were fighting for each other. Even for strangers." The reporter's eyes softened. "That's remarkable." "Remarkable," Serac repeated quietly. "Yes, that is the word. We Dravak are proud warriors. We fight for command, for honor, for victory. Humans fight for life, for the lives of others. They fight when logic says run. They stand when there is no chance to win. I have never seen such madness. Or such courage." He looked up at the red sky again. "And that is why they changed me." The wind grew stronger, carrying dust and ash between them. The reporter didn't speak. She knew that the story wasn't finished. Serac continued, his voice lower now. When the final battle for Varkon 9 began, our generals said the humans would not last a day. Their supplies were gone. Their ships were destroyed. But they fought for 10 days. 10 days without rest, without food, without hope. When our lines began to break, they held theirs. His tone darkened. I saw Captain Ward again. His armor was shattered, his arm broken, but he refused to leave the front. He told me, if we fall together. I thought it was madness. But I followed him. And because of that, we won that battle. The reporter slowly raised her recorder.
Serac, may I ask?
What did you feel fighting beside them? He looked at her with tired eyes. I felt small, he said softly. For the first time I saw what strength truly was. It was not in claws or armor. It was in heart. Silence filled the air between them. The sound of distant thunder rolled across the empty plains. Serac stood up, his shadow long against the red light. You wanted the truth, he said. The truth is that humans are not what the galaxy believes. They are not weak. They are not reckless. They are something else, something rare. They are the storm that stands even when broken. The reporter lowered her recorder slowly. You speak of them with great respect, she said quietly. I owe them more than respect, Serac replied. He touched the faded insignia on the ground once more. I owe them my life. As the last light of the suns faded, Serac turned and began to walk away, his heavy steps echoing in the quiet. The reporter watched him go, feeling a strange sense of awe. She had come to hear a war story. Instead, she had heard the beginning of a legend. Above the dark sky, the first stars appeared, tiny, shining lights that reminded her of the humans Serac had spoken about. Small, fragile, yet unbreakable. And so began the story of the battle-scarred alien who spoke the hidden truth about humans in war. Long before the burning plains of Varkon 9, before Serac's scars and the silence of victory, there was a moment when everything began to change. It started with a message that echoed through the halls of the Dravak High Command, a message that spoke of a new species entering the Galactic War. At that time, the Vorn Collective, a massive army of machine beings, had begun to sweep across entire star systems. They did not negotiate, they did not rest, and they did not show mercy. The Dravak Empire had already lost 5 worlds and thousands of soldiers. Fear was growing among even the strongest warriors. When Serac first heard the news that a new ally had joined the fight, he had been sitting in a metallic room aboard the warship Fury's Edge. The walls hummed softly with the sound of engines, and the smell of fuel filled the air. The commander, General Varen, stood before a group of battle-worn officers, his heavy armor shining under the blue lights. The Council has approved new reinforcements, Varen announced. A new species has volunteered to fight beside us. A murmur spread through the room. Serac leaned forward, interested. New allies meant fresh soldiers, perhaps better weapons. The general's voice continued, but the next words made everyone stop. They call themselves humans. From a planet named Earth, the name meant nothing to most of them. Some officers looked confused, others amused. One of them laughed. Humans? Never heard of them. Are they warriors or traitors? The general's face remained stern. They are a young species recently discovered by the Council. Their technology is primitive by our standards, but they are willing to fight. The Council believes their numbers and determination could be useful. Another officer scoffed. Useful? Against the Vorn? What can primitives do that we cannot? Even Serac smiled faintly. He had fought alongside many powerful races, the Telnar, the Solari, even the armored Koran. But humans? He had heard whispers that they had no natural armor, no claws and no psychic strength. Fragile creatures of flesh and bone, still orders were orders. The humans were to arrive on Lerath 5, one of the key battlefronts. Serac and his unit were sent to meet them. Arrival on Lerath 5 was a gray world covered with endless plains of ash and iron. The sky was always filled with dark clouds, and the air smelled of burned oil. The Dravak had been fighting there for months, struggling to hold back the mechanical armies of the Vorn. When the human ships arrived, everyone stopped to watch. They were smaller than Dravak warships, slower and painted in dull gray. Instead of smooth plasma shields, their hulls were covered with patches and burn marks. Some even looked like they were built from scrap, but the humans still came, hundreds of them landing on the blackened soil with purpose in their steps. Serac stood at the edge of the landing field as the humans marched out of their dropships. He expected fear or hesitation in their eyes, but what he saw surprised him. They looked tired but determined. Their faces were scarred, their uniforms dusty, and their armor simple, but their eyes were alive. They looked at the battlefield not with fear but with focus. Among them walked a man with a calm, steady expression. He wore no fancy armor, only a dark coat with a small blue insignia on his chest. The patch read, Captain Elias Ward. When Ward reached the Dravak command post, he saluted politely. Captain Elias Ward, United Earth Defense Force, we're here to assist. General Varen looked him up and down, unimpressed. You're here to die, he said coldly. The Vorn will crush your kind. You should have stayed on your small planet. Ward only smiled faintly. We've heard that before, sir. But we're still here. That quiet confidence irritated many Dravak officers. Serac, standing nearby, folded his arms and muttered, They won't last a day. But that night, as the stars filled the dark sky, Serac couldn't stop thinking about those human eyes. Bright, fearless, full of something he didn't understand. First contact in battle the next morning. The ground shook with the arrival of the Vorn. The machines came like a black wave, their metal bodies reflecting the dim light. Their voices were silent, their eyes glowing red. The Dravak had seen them many times before, but for the humans this was their first real battle on Larath 5. Serac's squad was positioned on the left flank. The humans were assigned to cover the right, under Captain Ward's command. The Dravak expected them to break quickly. When the first explosions tore through the air, the sky turned orange. Energy beams struck the ground, melting metal and stone. The Vorn advanced without emotion. The Dravak fired plasma cannons, their voices loud with battle cries. And then through the smoke, Serac saw the humans move. They didn't scatter. They didn't hide. They advanced carefully, working together in small groups. When one fell, another dragged him back. When ammo ran low, they shared. Their rifles fired bullets instead of plasma. Yet each shot was precise. Serac couldn't believe it. They're holding the line? He muttered. A younger Dravak beside him shouted, Impossible! They have no shields. But it was happening. The humans fought with strange rhythm, covering, advancing, shouting to each other words Serac didn't understand. Push forward. On your 6. We've got you. As the battle grew worse, Serac saw Captain Ward himself run into the fire to rescue a wounded soldier. The machines fired around him, but he didn't stop until the man was safe. His coat was burned, his arm bleeding, but he still smiled and said, You're all right, soldier. Stay with me. For a moment, Serac forgot to fight. He just watched, amazed. The Dravak were known for their pride and power, but humans, they had something else, something invisible. Respect earned in fire by nightfall, the battlefield was quiet again. Smoke rose from the broken machines, and the sky was full of burning fragments. The Dravak had survived barely. But the humans, they had held their position. Even their dead were laid in careful rows, their weapons placed beside them. Serac walked through the human camp, watching them patch their wounds and share food. Despite their losses, they laughed softly, telling each other stories of home. Some were singing. It was strange to see soldiers smile after such destruction. Captain Ward sat near a small fire, cleaning his weapon. When he saw Serac approach, he nodded politely. Good fight today, he said. Serac tilted his head. You lost a third of your unit, Ward shrugged. We expected worse. You don't fear death, Serac said slowly. Ward looked at the flames. Fear keeps you alive, but we don't let it rule us. If we fall, others stand. That's how we survive. Serac stared at him for a long moment. The words sounded simple, but the meaning was deep. He had seen many species claim to be brave, but humans, they lived it. As the night went on, Serac sat near the humans listening to their stories. They spoke of oceans, mountains, families, and dreams. They fought not for their empire, but for the people they loved. It was the first time Serac realized that the humans' strength came from their hearts, not their weapons. Seeds of change days turned into weeks. The humans and Dravak continued to fight side by side. Many Dravak soldiers began to respect their strange new allies. Others still doubted them. But Serac's view had changed completely. He noticed how humans never abandoned each other. When food ran short, they shared. When fear spread, they joked to lift spirits. When a soldier fell, they carried him no matter the danger. Serac had never seen such loyalty. One evening, while preparing for another mission, Serac approached Captain Ward. Why do you fight like this? He asked. You don't conquer. You don't gain riches. You risk everything for others. Why? Ward looked up at the stars. Because if we don't, then who will? Someone has to stand. Someone has to protect. It's what makes us human. Serac didn't answer, but something in those words settled deep inside him. A spark he couldn't ignore. The beginning of a legend. When the next assault came, the humans and Dravak fought as one. Serac, once doubtful, now stood beside Captain Ward on the front line. Together they held back the Vorn, not as separate armies but as brothers in battle. That day changed Serac forever. He saw death, courage, and unity in its purest form. He realized that the humans, though fragile in body, possessed the strongest spirit in the galaxy. Years later, Serac would remember this moment whenever he spoke of humans. The day they arrived was the day the galaxy began to learn the true meaning of strength. The war was over, or at least that is what most of the galaxy believed. Battles had ended, territories were claimed, and the Vorn Collective had retreated to rebuild. But for Serac, the battlefields were far from silent. He carried memories heavier than any weapon, and scars deeper than the ones on his armor. After the siege of Asterion Station, Serac had been offered honors, medals, and recognition by the Dravak High Command. Leaders from across the Empire wanted his name attached to campaigns and victories, but Serac refused. Not out of pride, but because the truth he had seen could not be celebrated. It was the humans. The humans were the story. Returning to Varkon 9, Serac returned to Varkon 9, the world where the last great battle had taken place. He walked among the ruins, silent and thoughtful. Smoke still drifted from some of the craters, and the remains of Vorn machines lay scattered across the plains. It was a world of destruction, but also of remembrance. The Dravak had left banners and markers claiming the land, but Serac paid them little attention. His eyes were on something else, the traces of humanity. Marks where soldiers had dug trenches, symbols carved into metal for lost friends, small tokens of courage left behind by human hands. Each mark, each token, reminded him of what he had learned. The humans had survived impossible odds, not because they were stronger, but because they fought for each other. They had faced fire without fear, carried the wounded without hesitation, and given hope even when hope seemed impossible. It was that spirit, the human spirit, that Serac had come to understand, and that the galaxy had yet to see. The call to speak word had spread that a representative of the Dravak would speak to the Galactic Council about the recent war. Serac was summoned. He could have declined. Many soldiers might have preferred silence, leaving the story to be told in reports and official records. But Serac knew that silence would betray the truth. In the council chamber, beings of all shapes, sizes, and species gathered. Some were curious, some skeptical, and some openly dismissive of humans. Cameras floated through the air, recording every moment. A young council member, a slender Coran diplomat, addressed him. Serac, you fought alongside humans. What is your opinion of their role in this war? Serac paused. The room was silent. His mechanical arm twitched faintly as he rested his hand on the lectern. He could see some of the council members exchanging glances. They expected praise. They expected tactical analysis. But Serac had a different story to tell. The humans, he said slowly, are not what you believe. They are not weak. They are not reckless. They are something far more powerful than any weapon we have faced. A murmur ran through the chamber. The council members leaned forward, intrigued. They fight not for empire. They fight not for glory. They fight for life, for the lives of others, for the friends beside them, and for the people they love. I have seen humans face impossible odds and still rise again. I have seen them carry the wounded, shield the weak, and smile even when death is all around. That is their power. Serac's voice grew stronger, filled with emotion. You may call it foolishness. You may call it primitive, but I call it courage. The courage that can turn defeat into victory. The courage that can make empires tremble. And the courage that, in my eyes, defines what it truly means to be alive. The battle they could not forget. He spoke of specific moments, not as a historian, but as a witness. The council listened as he described the siege of Asterion Station. Humans holding the line when all others faltered. Captain Ward rescuing soldiers under fire. Lieutenant Harper refusing to leave the battlefield despite being injured. He spoke of the day on Lareth 5 when the humans first arrived. Small fragile beings landing on a burning planet, laughing at danger and standing firm when even the Dravak expected them to break. Sirach's words were vivid. He described their teamwork, their loyalty, and their hearts. He told how they comforted each other in moments of fear, shared food when none was left, and lifted each other up when hope seemed gone. "This is not weakness," Sirach emphasized. "This is the strength of life itself. The strength that no machine, no empire, no army can ever destroy." Reactions in the council. Many council members shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others were visibly moved. There were whispers, questioning glances, and a few nods. A prominent Dravak commander finally stood. "Sirach, are you suggesting that humans are superior warriors?" he asked, his voice laced with skepticism. Sirach shook his head. "I am not suggesting they are superior. I am saying they are different. And that difference, compassion, hope, loyalty, and courage, is something the galaxy has underestimated for too long. In war, it makes them stronger than any weapon. It makes them unforgettable." A human representative sitting quietly in the corner nodded, a small smile on her face. Others began murmuring in agreement. The message was clear. Humans had changed the outcome of the war in ways no one had fully appreciated. A personal reflection after the council meeting. Sirach walked through the quiet corridors of the station. He thought about the soldiers he had lost, the battles he had survived, and the humans who had fought beside him. Every memory carried weight, memories of courage, sacrifice, and unexpected friendship. He remembered Captain Ward's voice during the final hours of the siege of Asterion. "Hold the line. No one left behind." Those words had stayed with him. Humans did not fight for themselves alone. They fought for everyone. That was their hidden truth. Sirach realized that he too had changed. Once he had believed that strength came only from power, technology, or rank. Now he knew that true strength came from heart, from loyalty, and from the courage to stand when all hope seemed lost. The galaxy had seen humans as weak, as fragile, as young and untested, but Sirach had seen the truth. And he would make sure others did too. The medal in his quarters, Sirach placed a small human medal on a shelf. It was dented, scratched, and faded from battle. Captain Ward had given it to him during the siege, a simple gesture that held more meaning than any official award could. Sirach touched the medal lightly. "You fought with more than your strength," he whispered. "You fought with your hearts, and it is a lesson I will never forget." The medal was a symbol, not of victory but of the spirit that humans carried with them everywhere. It reminded him that courage was not measured by power, size, or armor. It was measured by the will to protect, the will to rise again, and the will to fight for something greater than oneself. Preparing to tell the world, Sirach knew that his story was not just for the Council or for the Dravak Empire. It was for the galaxy. Every being, from the smallest colony to the largest empire, needed to understand the hidden truth about humans. He began preparing reports, testimonies, and personal accounts. Every soldier, every human he had fought beside was mentioned. Every act of bravery, every gesture of loyalty, every small miracle on the battlefield was recorded. He did not want humans to be celebrated for their weapons. He wanted them to be remembered for their hearts. And in doing so, Sirach realized something profound. The hidden truth about humans was not just about war. It was about life, about hope, about the courage to protect what is dear. And that, he knew, was a lesson the galaxy could never ignore. A soldier's promise. As the sun set over Varkon 9, Sirach stood once more on the battlefield. The winds carried ash and silence, but also memory. He looked at the horizon, imagining the humans he had fought beside, Captain Ward, Lieutenant Harper, and countless others. He made a silent vow. He would speak of them always. He would tell the galaxy that humans were more than soldiers. They were protectors, survivors, and warriors of a spirit that no one could destroy. And when he did, the galaxy would finally understand the truth. Strength is not measured by technology, numbers, or armor. It is measured by courage, loyalty, and heart, and humans had it in abundance. Years had passed since the last great battles of the war. Varkon 9, once a scarred and broken world, had begun to heal. Slowly, nature returned, filling craters with strange green plants, and small lakes formed in abandoned trenches. Smoke still drifted occasionally, but the harsh smell of metal and fire was fading. Sirach, the battle-scarred Dravak soldier, had changed along with the world. He had survived battles that had destroyed entire fleets. Yet he carried a heavier burden than any wound. It was the weight of memory, the memory of humans and what they had shown him. Though the war was over, the story of the humans was not yet told. Empires celebrated victories with parades and medals, but Sirach knew that no medal could truly honor what he had seen. What humans had done could not be measured by trophies or numbers. It could only be understood through stories, shared so that others might learn the truth. The Galactic Academy Sirach had taken a new role. Instructor at the Galactic Academy, the institution where soldiers from all species trained to protect the galaxy. His lessons were not about tactics or weapons alone. They were about courage, loyalty, and the strength that came from heart. Young soldiers of every species came to hear him speak. Some were eager, some skeptical, and some carried pride in their own people's traditions. But every one of them listened when Sirach began his story. The humans, he would say, are not the strongest in weapons. They are not the fastest in speed. They are not the largest or the most advanced. But they have something no empire can build: spirit, loyalty, courage, compassion. And when they fight for someone they love, even the stars themselves tremble. Some students laughed at first, thinking him poetic. Others shifted uncomfortably, feeling the truth in his words. By the end of the lesson, all were silent, reflecting on what they had heard. Sirach often displayed the dented medal Captain Ward had given him during the siege of Asterion Station. It was small, simple, and scarred, but it symbolized something far greater than its size or appearance. It symbolized the heart of humanity. Memories of war even in the quiet halls of the academy, Sirach's mind often returned to the battlefield. He remembered Captain Ward standing tall despite injuries. He remembered Lieutenant Harper and the countless soldiers who had risked everything to protect each other. He remembered the night on Lerath 5 when humans first arrived, small fragile beings landing on a war-torn planet, stepping forward when stronger soldiers would have fallen back. He remembered the courage, the laughter, and the quiet determination that refused to break. And he remembered the final moments at Asterion Station. Smoke and fire surrounded them. Machines advanced without mercy, but the humans stood their ground, holding the line until the enemy finally retreated. It was not strength of body that won the day, Sirach realized. It was strength of heart. Those memories were alive in him, shaping who he had become. Once he had believed that honor came from conquest and victory. Now he understood that true honor came from sacrifice, loyalty, and protecting what is right. A lesson for the galaxy. Sirach wanted the galaxy to know the same lesson. Humans were often dismissed as small, fragile, or inexperienced. Many believed their victories came from luck or timing. But Sirach knew the truth. Humans had something deeper. They fought for each other, not for medals or orders. They believed in hope even when hope seemed impossible. During his lectures at the academy, Sirach often told the students this: "Do not mistake mercy for weakness," he would warn. "Do not think that a gentle heart is powerless. Humans have taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is standing for what you believe, protecting others, and rising again when you are broken. That is the strength that wins wars, shapes worlds, and inspires empires." The students listened, and many began to understand that the galaxy's future would not be determined solely by machines, weapons, or numbers, but by heart. A message to humanity far across the galaxy: humans were rebuilding their colonies, recovering from losses, and continuing to explore the stars. Sirach often sent messages of respect and gratitude to them, recounting the battles they had survived and the courage they had shown. One such message, addressed to Captain Ward, read simply, "You have shown the galaxy the true meaning of strength. I have learned more from your people than from any teacher or commander. You are more than soldiers. You are the hope of the stars. May your courage inspire generations to come." Ward's reply was short and heartfelt. "Sirach, you fought beside us as one of us. Your heart saw what many could not. Never forget, spirit is stronger than steel." The exchange symbolized the bond formed between species in war, not only as allies, but as witnesses to courage and compassion. The stars remember Sirach often walked along the observation decks of the academy at night, gazing at the endless stars. Each light reminded him of battles fought, friends lost, and lessons learned. He thought of humans, small in size but vast in spirit, traveling across the galaxy with hope in their hearts. He imagined the young soldiers he taught someday facing challenges beyond the academy. He hoped they would remember the lesson of humanity, That loyalty, courage, and compassion can turn the tide when all seems lost. That no weapon is as powerful as a willing heart. Even the galaxy itself seemed to respond. Tales of human bravery began to spread among other species. Colonies told stories of soldiers who refused to abandon each other. Empires whispered of humans who survived impossible odds. Legends grew, not of conquest but of heart. Serac smiled softly. The story he had promised to tell was beginning to reach the stars. A soldier's final reflection. Late at night, Serac sat alone in his quarters, the old metal resting in his clawed hands. The scratches and dents were evidence of battle, but they also symbolized life. Each mark represented courage, sacrifice, and hope. He thought of the first human he had seen, Captain Ward, standing tall against the Vorn. He remembered the teamwork, the laughter and the bravery that refused to break. Serac realized that humans had done more than fight. They had changed him. They had shown him that strength is not measured by size, by power, or by victories. It is measured by heart, by spirit, and by the courage to rise again when the world falls around you. He whispered quietly to himself, "The galaxy will never forget the truth about humans, and neither will I." A new generation years later, Serac watched young recruits train at the academy. He saw humans, Dravak, Korin, and others practicing side by side. He saw laughter, cooperation, and determination. A young human cadet approached him. "Instructor Serac," she said, "do you really believe we can be heroes like the humans of the war?" Serac looked at her, remembering every battle, every scar, every moment of courage. He smiled. "You already are," he said. "Heroes are not born from strength alone. Heroes are born when they fight for others, even when all seems lost." The cadet's eyes widened and she nodded, understanding. Around them, the young soldiers trained harder, inspired by the story of humanity and the lessons Serac had taught. The legacy of the human spirit was alive. It would continue to grow, shaping the future of the galaxy. The hidden truth revealed Serac often told his story to anyone who would listen. The hidden truth of humanity in war. He described how humans fought not for glory but for love, loyalty, and hope. He described how they survived impossible odds and protected those around them, and in every telling he made one thing clear. Never mistake mercy for weakness. Never underestimate courage, and never forget that the heart of a human can light a galaxy brighter than any star. Through his words, through the lessons he taught, and through the stories of battle and survival, the truth spread. The galaxy learned that humans were more than soldiers. They were legends of spirit, courage, and hope. And Serac, the battle-scarred alien soldier, had become their witness, their messenger, and their eternal admirer. A final moment, Serac stood at the edge of the Academy observation deck watching the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were traveling to distant colonies, exploring, rebuilding, and living. He smiled softly. "They will rise again," he whispered. "And the galaxy will see the truth." The stars seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if the universe itself acknowledged the courage, heart, and spirit of humans. And so ended the story of the battle-scarred alien who spoke the hidden truth about humans in war. A story of courage, loyalty, and a spirit that no force could ever destroy.